For those who may be unfamiliar, this is a guy named Steven Crowder. He is a far-right extremist, if I've ever seen one. He's been talking about the whole Kanye West Nazi thing recently. If you haven't heard, Kanye West came out as a full-blown Nazi, avowed Nazi, says he loves Hitler, the whole 9 yards, right? So Steven Crowder naturally had to talk about it, being a far-right figure. Well, as it turns out, Kanye West said all that stuff on Alex Jones's program. So Steven Crowder decides to get Alex Jones on his program to talk about his perspective on the discussion with Kanye West. This is part 3, I think. If you haven't seen the others, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. If you want to see the Alex Jones stuff, it was in the first episode of this series. Up to this point, Steven Crowder's been talking about Elon Musk and Twitter files and, you know, all the other far-right talking points that go along with these types of people. So without further ado, why don't we continue on listening to Steven Crowder, see what he has to say for himself, and while we listen, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild.
We'd like to introduce a new segment because there's a lot that goes on in Russia, not just the war with Ukraine. There's a lot that you may not know about, which sometimes it's important, sometimes it's relevant, and sometimes it's just hilarious and foreign enough that it makes us uneasy, which brings us to a new segment we'd like to call Russian and Bussin'.
Oh, no. He loves being racist. It's one of his favorite pastimes, so I would be willing to bet just about anything that he's about to be really racist in a minute.
All right.
They're silly people.
So on Monday, Vladimir Putin, just to be clear, not fans of Vladimir Putin.
No fans.
Nope.
That was mocking.
You know, he's making a joke about that, but a lot of people on the right are huge fans of Vladimir Putin. Seriously, like a lot of people. I have like a billion examples of it. Look, he can make jokes all he wants, but this is no joke. People are serious about how they feel about Putin. Marjorie Taylor Greene loves Vladimir Putin. I have clip after clip of her talking about this. Nick Fuentes, Kanye West's friend, the person they're talking about in this episode, huge fan of Putin. I'm just saying, it's not ridiculous to make that clarification. I don't know why he's acting sarcastic about it.
Also, by the way, not a fan of Zelensky, just to be clear.
No.
Yeah, don't like any of them. And I don't think we should be involved, just to be clear.
He's got an Oscar, though.
There it is. So he wanted to He wanted to kind of try to sit right in the middle like a moderate centrist. Well, you know what? Sometimes people on the center are wrong. In fact, oftentimes they are. Just because you are just being in the center does not make you right. There are some things that the center is incorrect about. There is no middle ground on the flat earth question. There is no middle ground on whether or not climate change is happening. And trying to stand in the center of those things is wrong. You're just wrong. So you be an enlightened centrist all you want, but there are some things that enlightened centrists are just wrong about. It drives me nuts when people get the incorrect impression that being in the center is the best place to be.
He does, yeah, for playing the piano with his dong. So on Monday,
that's an old reference, yeah. Zelensky used to be a comedian, and he did a whole bunch of bits and stuff, famous bits, and I guess Steven Crowder is just trying to make fun of him. Why? Got me, because he wants to be an enlightened centrist and hate people equally? I don't know.
Vladimir Putin signed into law a new bill outlawing what they refer to as materials that promote LGBT. See, they don't go QAIP.
They don't go far, yeah.
I'm surprised they went with the T.
Me too.
They should have been like, LG, that's all you get.
The TV?
You will say, give me B and T. I say, no, you do not get your L and G, and even that is a stretch here in Russia. So,
okay, well, in that case, everybody would assume that... Wait, LG... Now I'm confused where the letters go. Everybody would assume that, like, trans and bi people would, be perfectly free to talk about this. Yeah, if you're not familiar with this story, Putin has slowly but surely been isolating the LGBT community and taking their rights away little by little. Not even little by little, honestly. This dude's been doing it, like, blatantly, obviously, and, God, it's just disturbing what he's been doing with it. And, since they brought up Russia, I feel compelled to mention that this morning we found out Brittney Griner has been released from prison.
Russia has freed WNBA star Brittney Griner in a dramatic high-level prisoner exchange with the U.S., releasing notorious Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. Griner's return to the United States caps a months-long saga that began in February when she was detained at a Moscow airport after Russian authorities said they found vape canisters with cannabis oil in her luggage. Now, she was later jailed on drug charges and then convicted, sentenced to 9 years in prison. President Biden's authorization to release a Russian felon who was once named, quote, the merchant of death, underscored the escalating pressure that his administration faced to get Griner home. Once again, Brittney Griner has been released from prison.
Yeah, so Victor Bout. Victor Bout is an absolutely terrible person, and the U.S. spent millions of dollars and years trying to catch this guy. Finally caught him in Bangkok, Thailand. Like 12 years ago or something, they caught him. And people are saying this is a bad deal. A lot of people are saying this. Like, I'm seeing it all over the place. These are not weasel words. I mean, I'm seeing it in Reddit comments, more specifically. I'll say it that way. Reddit commenters are saying that they feel like this is a bad deal. Is this a bad deal? I don't think it's a bad deal. The guy's been out of the game for 12 years. He did do some really terrible stuff. Like, did things that got Americans killed. That's true. But name absolutely any industry that you can be out of for 12 years, and your role will not be filled for you. The guy probably doesn't have a job to go back to after 12 years. Someone else is doing it, first of all. And second, from my understanding, Russia actually wanted this guy because they found out he was a CIA informant. I mean, he wasn't like a CIA agent. He was just passing along some information for them. In trade, he was getting some level of protection, or they would look the other way in some circumstances, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Russia, I don't know that Russia's going to be super happy with him when he gets back. So this isn't the type of thing where they're not necessarily going to release him back into the world immediately. I don't know. Maybe. But either way, even if they did, it was worth it. Brittney Griner being captured was a huge blow to morale, U.S. morale. So I'm glad that they got her back. Anyways, that's my reasoning for thinking that Brittney Griner's trade for Victor Bout was totally worth it. That's kind of how I feel about it. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, they are treating LGBT people really terribly, and that situation is made even worse by the fact that Brittney Griner is LGBT. She has a wife. I cannot imagine that she was treated well in Russian prison as a lesbian person. They don't treat lesbian people well on the outside. So yeah, Russia is a complete train wreck right now. You will never catch me going to Russia. Never. I will never go to Russia after everything we've seen recently. Let's keep listening.
They banned materials that promote gay, queer, whatever lifestyles. Here you go.
Oh, I bet Steven Crowder is going to be in favor of that, right? He's going to be excited at the prospect of gay people being banned from existing, just plain existing, let alone quote-unquote propagandizing for their lifestyle, as Russia calls it.
For years, being gay has been extremely tough in Russia. Now it's about to get even harder. After Russian parliament passed what it calls the LGBT propaganda law, claiming in part it's a defense against U.S. influence.
I cannot put it any other way. The United States of America has become the global center of this sodomy. Let them live there. Do not touch us.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong? Yes, he is. Are you kidding me? As if gay people don't exist in Europe? This was very obviously Putin's attempt to propagandize even further and get the far right in the U.S. on his side to make himself more liked. How does it get more obvious than this? These people are the biggest suckers alive. If they actually buy this. Like, it seems like he is buying it. Anyway, let's keep listening.
No. Don't touch us. He's just looking at some Trudeau. He's like, don't touch! Don't touch me! You and your black face and gay hands.
And very short.
The United States suck. They stuck that landing.
It's like a nightstand.
Yeah, there's no LGBT. Like, the men who like to have sex with men, how does that even? A man cannot accommodate a man unless you do something gross.
absolutely wrong. I can't even believe he's like laughing and joking about this. This is really sad. And it's not like the jokes he's telling aren't funny either. Like, I'll laugh at jokes that are like really, really terrible if they're funny jokes. These aren't funny at all.
So under the new law, individuals can be fined over $6,000 for what they refer to as LGBT propaganda, over $3,000 for demonstrations of LGBT causes, information.
Yeah, that means if you kiss or hold hands in public, then you can be arrested for it or fined or whatever else. That's my understanding.
That encourages a change of gender among teenagers. So here's the thing. Some of that seems fair.
Right.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not seem fair. What is he talking about? How did he come away from this thinking it seemed fair? I thought he was pro-freedom. This is one of the biggest freedom rollbacks in Russian history. Well, I don't know about that, but it's a really big freedom rollback. Seriously. How is it that he came to the conclusion that this is a good idea? If he's from a Western nation that purports to value freedom, how did he get here? This dude is absolutely nuts.
And if we put that into effect here, we could just basically eliminate the national debt just from the fines to Disney.
It's true. It's fair.
So you can comment below on what you think about this, and if you can at least understand where they're coming from. Of course, I don't think that anyone should be punished just for being gay. Of course, I believe that everyone should have equal rights here.
That's not obvious to me right now. He's saying, of course I believe this. Of course I believe that. That's really not that clear to me, actually, what he's saying right now. This is so deeply disturbing to hear him come out and say some of the stuff that he's saying right now. The right in America right now is off the hinges. Seriously. How does it get more off the hinges than this?
On what you think about this, and if you can at least understand where they're coming from. Of course, I don't think that anyone should be punished just for being gay. Of course, I believe that everyone should have equal rights here in this country. I don't believe that marriage is a fundamental human right, but I believe in civil unions. That's always been my position. But I certainly don't think that someone...
So he doesn't believe people should be equals. He says, oh, of course I believe people should be equals. I don't believe that marriage is a right. Well, then you don't believe in equal rights. This is a little thing that we like to call separate but equal. Ever heard that term? I apologize for the banging in the background. There's some construction happening. We're just going to have to work through it. Anyways, yeah, this is separate but equal. He is actually calling for a separate but equal type of situation. It's just disgusting, dude. How does he live with himself? And why doesn't he just come out and say what he really believes? He would love to see, the LGBT community completely banned like Russia. I mean, he just joked about it and laughed about it for like 5 minutes straight. Just come out and say it, if that's how you feel.
Someone should be arrested for being gay. Someone should be mistreated for being gay. Someone should not enjoy the same rights as everyone else. But I do understand them right now trying to...
He literally just said he doesn't want gay people to be able to get married. That's a different right. He wants them to be treated differently than everybody else.
Safeguard when they look in the United States and they see children being put on puberty blockers, when they see hypersexualized issues being taught to children ages kindergarten through third grade. And you'll hear some people say this...
Yeah, this is completely made up. This is not happening. We have 330 million people in the United States, give or take. Do you know how many people that is? It would take you 11 days to count to 1 million if you counted 1 per second, right? You're counting $1 million and you're flipping through the dollars 1 per second. It takes you 11 days. Do you know how many days it takes you to count to $330 million? It would take you 10 years. 11 days to count to 1 million, 10 years to count to 330 million. That is how much 330 million is. Do you want to guess how many kids were put on puberty blockers last year? I think it was a total of like 1,000. It would take you like 5 minutes to count to 1,000 versus 11 days for 1 million. Oh, I already got that one. Son of a bitch. I just wasted my time. Versus 11 days for 1 million, 10 years for 330 million, or 31 years for 1 billion. This is such a non-issue. Nobody gives a shit. It's almost not happening at all. But this, apparently in Steven Crowder's mind, acts as a justification for Russia to clamp down on this and take people's rights away. What kind of sick fantasy land does this dude live in?
This is a boogeyman argument. I hear people from the left saying, no, it's not a...
Oh, yeah, it is a boogeyman argument. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Glad he brought that up.
United States, and they see children being put on puberty blockers. When they see hypersexualized issues being taught to children, ages kindergarten through third grade. And you'll hear some...
That's not happening.
Some people say, this is a boogeyman argument. I hear people from the left saying, no, it's not a boogeyman argument. It's not a what if. It's not a slippery slope argument. There had to be legislation proposed to stop it because of the policy of the entire...
No, there was legislation proposed. That doesn't mean that it was intended to stop anything. It wasn't happening. This stuff was not going on. This guy just lives in like this perpetual state of fear that some boogeyman is out to get him. He's like Kanye. Except Kanye can't stop talking about how the Jews are out to get him. This guy can't stop thinking about how the gays are trying to convert his children to the gay lifestyle choice or whatever other nonsense. That's really what it's all about.
Entire DNC, to be clear. So I understand this reaction. Might be an overreaction from Russia, but you also have to understand, like with Brittney Griner, they don't share your values.
No.
They don't see a bunch of guys with leather chokers on floats having sex in the streets of San Francisco as something they want in Russia.
Okay, I would assume he's talking about Pride Month or the Pride Parade or whatever. Pride parades are supposed to stay family friendly. They are not supposed to have like leather chokers and stuff. There is some level of debate, but as far as I know, every single Pride parade has been kept family friendly because there are a lot of kids there that don't need to see some things at this young age, but also still need support from the broader LGBT community. Because growing up as a gay kid is really, really difficult. Or whatever kid, trans or whatever. So I absolutely 100% believe that Pride parades should stay family friendly, and the vast majority of people feel the same. But, Steven Crowder's gotta propagandize and twist it around and make you think that it's a huge problem when it isn't, of course.
And by the way, I would say that that's our best export as a United States.
Right, exactly. And by the way, this is a strengthening of an already what they saw as a draconian 2013 law. They're just basically making it harder on people who do these things. But go back to one of those quotes. They basically said for teenagers, if you're doing a public display for teenagers, in their mind, they can't not even imagine having kids involved in any of that. Right. They're saying, no, this is a $3,000-something fine if
only they knew.
And it's like, no, but...
It's like, you watch a movie about like a teen romance or something. You've got a boy that's like trying to get with a girl or whatever. And nobody blinks twice at that. There is nothing inherently sexual about two boys or two girls having a romantic relationship. There's nothing inherently sexual about that. You are reading the sexual situation into that. People can have romantic feelings without it being sexual. And they do, frequently. Is it weird to anybody else that fifth graders have boyfriends and girlfriends all the time? Don't most people have, 15 girlfriends simultaneously in elementary school? That's not a sexual situation. There's nothing sexual about that. It shouldn't be viewed that way. But these people seem to view it that way. Like, any situation where romantic feelings are involved, as long as they're a gay couple, turns sexual in their minds. It's really, really weird, honestly.
But they're looking at us and going, I don't want to be that hellscape.
But my point is, they must be missing.
Like, the United States is no better or worse or really no different than any other European country. No other country in the West. We're all basically the same. In fact, there's a lot of European countries that don't have to deal with the extremism and hatred and danger that the U.S. LGBT community has to put up with. We are not in a worse position than anybody else. This is just Russia, very obviously, trying to propagandize to the right to get them to like Putin more. This really does not surprise me at all. And they fell for it.
They're sitting there at their large table going like, oh, they can't do this with teenagers. They're not old enough. What's next? Having drag queen brunch with French toast and 5-year-olds? Stop strawmanning, Boris. Come on. They're not that crazy. We're talking about teenagers. They have no idea that's happening with children in grade schools.
Yes, and then they just turn on the news and they're like, well, son of a... Like,
oh.
Okay, Drag Queen Story Hour is theater. There is a long storied history of men dressing as women or women dressing as men. They don't even have to be like trans. In fact, a lot of the time they're not trans. They're just dressing up as a piece of theater to put on a performance. Shakespeare had this all the time, didn't he? There are like a billion examples of drag queen story hours or just general like drag shows or whatever throughout history, throughout time. They just picked this moment in time to be outraged about it because they think it can further their goals of demonizing the LGBT community, despite the fact that drag queen story hour doesn't even necessarily involve somebody from the LGBT community.
This is so much worse.
All right, Boris.
We need new laws.
We need bigger tables, too.
Quick, get Putin. Oh, he shit himself downstairs again. Well, we'll find the next guy.
You saw that story, too?
Yes, I did.
He fell down the stairs and soiled himself.
Yeah, there's no reason to trust this. See, here's the difference between me and Steven Crowder. He'll believe just about anything, and he'll spread it like it's a fact. There was a story that came out that Putin fell downstairs and soiled himself, basically. That was the title of it. No source listed, no official source listed as far as I could tell. No reason to believe it at all. It seemed like just like an attack piece on Putin or whatever, which, fine, I guess that happens, but I can't even believe that Steven Crowder fell for such a thing without researching it deeper. Why don't you look into it a little bit further before spreading it as fact in front of an audience of 6 million people? This guy is terrible.
Whoops.
Wait, really?
Yes,
Yeah, what do you mean, really?
Yeah.
No, not really. Oh my God. He didn't even fact check this. He just stated it as a fact. This blows me away.
I didn't see
He
that.
fell downstairs at his residence and shite his pants.
And that's the problem with only operating from might makes right. Same thing for women. Beauty is temporary.
Yeah.
Putin's never going to be as strong and powerful as he seems, especially when he trips down the stairs and poops himself. People are like, I don't.
We don't know that this happened. It blows me away that this guy doesn't understand the concept of fact checking or reliable sources. It doesn't surprise me at all, honestly. In fact, I'd be surprised if he did understand the importance of reliable sources. After everything that he's said and done on his show, it would surprise me if he knew anything about it.
Know if he's as alpha as I thought.
Yes. By the way, he's outlawed stairs in the entire country.
Yes, but
now. So it's all lifts and ramps.
yes, and it's only slight improvement. He now uses ramp and pieces all over floor. By the way, in seemingly completely unrelated news, 2,500 seals were found dead on the Russian Dagestani coastline.
Oh, poor seal.
So federal fisheries, they said that they weren't necessarily sure about the cause, but they would be investigating. And actually, fortunately for us, Russia Today obtained, I believe, an exclusive leaked photo.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Well, that
That
makes
explains
sense.
it.
That's
Yeah.
For people listening on audio, you can go and watch it over at Rumble or on YouTube because
If you are listening instead of watching, it was a photoshopped picture of Steven Seagal, who is apparently like a huge Russian fan. I don't know. Shooting gay seals. I don't know why. They didn't even laugh at that picture. So, yeah, I don't know why you expected anybody else to laugh at it.
it makes no sense, but it involves Seagal and a leather choker and a seal.
Yeah. I was wondering where Seagal went.
Yeah, that's where he is.
Yeah, he's on mission.
In the shadows.
Still has yet. He's never lost a fight.
Never. Yeah.
I've never lost a fight.
Ever.
When people.
Dude, these little hype men in the background are so good at chuckling like fools, right? God, I wish I had little hype men in the back that would chuckle like fools when I say stupid things.
Come up to me. Bad things happen.
If you check the
Especially if they mention that my hair went from bald to gray to full black to spray paint.
I guarantee you, if you check that seal's head, you'll find a bullet.
I can't be friends with anyone who believes in Steven Seagal. Just so you know.
Hard pass.
That for me is a purity test. If you believe in Steven Seagal as a thing, we have nothing in common.
You know who you are.
All right, before
Dude, these jokes are terrible. I have no idea what he's even talking about right now.
we get to Alex Jones. Twitter, the Twitter files. Now, Dave was in yesterday, so we wanted to make sure that we did a deep.
Let me tell you about the Twitter files real quick before he has an opportunity to lie about them. So Elon Musk claimed that there was some secret information that was hidden by the Twitter people about their correspondence with Joe Biden before the election, right? So 2020, supposedly, Joe Biden's campaign was communicating with Twitter to remove some stuff from their platform ahead of the campaign or ahead of the election. And people kind of freaked out at that because, wow, why is like a presidential campaign working with Twitter? Or more accurately, why is Twitter like working with a presidential campaign to remove things that they don't want on Twitter? Well, as it turns out, the thing that Twitter removed, or the thing that was even requested to be removed by the campaign, was just revenge of Joe Biden's son, Hunter. It was of his son, Hunter. That's it. That's what they removed from their website. That's what was requested to be removed from their website. There's no huge revelation in these Twitter files, but they're just pretending that there was. They're claiming that it was government censorship, despite the fact that it wasn't a government making the request in the first place. It was a campaign, not a government. Fox News the other day had Ted Cruz on, and they have a little like lower third like Chiron thing scrolling by or whatever, and it said Biden White House communicated directly with Twitter or something like that. Biden White House in 2020? What a weird thing for the Biden White House in 2020 to do, right? There was no Biden White House in 2020. It is not a big deal what happened, the Twitter files, but Republicans are pretending like it is a big deal. They're just making it up and getting people whipped into a blood frenzy over it. That's it. So there's nothing to the Twitter files thing. It's just people lying and twisting things around as usual.
Deep dive, and we were able to get all the information possible because there's a lot to kind of unpack, and there will be more files coming out.
Right. And we thought some was going to come out last night, but it turns out it didn't. I don't know why it got pushed, but Elon said something about needing a little bit more time to get it all together. So
why does he need more time?
I don't know. He does. I mean, he runs 5 companies.
There's nothing to it. I mean, it's completely fabricated. There's no like big revelation to it. There's nothing to be freaked out about or anything. It's just completely made up. If you're watching this 5 years in the future, here's the story with the laptop. Hunter Biden supposedly left a laptop of his at a computer repair shop in Delaware or Maryland or somewhere back in like 2019. The computer repair shop guy is blind, weirdly, and after like 90 days or something of Hunter Biden not picking the laptop up or paying for it, the laptop legally became like the property of the laptop repair guy, right? That's the laptop specifically, not the data on it. But that's neither here nor there. So the laptop repair guy, supposedly, according to this laptop repair shop, calls Rudy Giuliani and the FBI, turns the laptop over to the FBI, but makes a copy of the hard drive and gives a copy of the hard drive to Rudy Giuliani. And supposedly, all of this data that's releasing about the laptop is coming from Rudy Giuliani, a slow drip coming from Giuliani, releasing it little by little. It's an incredibly far-fetched story. I don't even believe that the laptop is real. I really don't. I think it's completely made up. And I think that Hunter Biden had some of his accounts hacked, most likely by Russia, and they've been slowly releasing the data little by little. I just don't believe any of it's real. I think it's all just a slow drip coming straight out of Russia who hacked Hunter Biden's accounts. They may have brought a laptop onto the show. I have no idea. I don't believe for a second it was Hunter Biden's laptop or that it had Hunter Biden's data on it or any of that stuff. I just don't believe it. And aside from all of that, I don't even care. It doesn't matter to me. Hunter Biden is totally uninvolved in the administration. I couldn't possibly care less about what's going on with the laptop or any of that shit. So anyway, now you know that's the story. It's made up controversy.
And has 9 kids, so
that's true. Lives in
he's
a tiny
busy
house.
fellow.
So Friday, of course, when he released the Twitter files, and the files were reported by an independent journalist, formerly of Rolling Stone, Matt Taibbi. There was a thread on his Twitter account. All the references are available at loudwithcarter.com. So here are some of the highlights. But there's some other interesting facets here that I think some people have maybe missed, and I also think this has been really sort of valuable as a lightning rod to see who in the Republican Party should not be considered amongst our ranks.
Right, exactly.
So what do we have? We have the Biden team consistently asked Twitter to censor material. This may not be surprising, but the specificity with which it happened is very disconcerting. So by 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back, handled.
Yeah, what he's leaving out in that is that those were just Hunter Biden pics. It was revenge of Hunter Biden. That's what those tweets were. We know that because
the specificity with which it happened is very disconcerting. So by 2020...
Yeah, right here. We know that it was Hunter Biden pics because we have the Wayback Machine. We used the Internet Archive machine to go back and look at those tweets previously to see what they were. And they were just Hunter Biden pics. That's it. It was just revenge of Hunter Biden. Isn't it interesting that Steven Crowder doesn't think that's relevant to the story? Isn't it interesting that he didn't feel like it was necessary to mention? Weird, huh? Very odd. Would he feel that was necessary if the situation had been reversed, if it was Donald Trump that was in this situation rather than Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or whatever? One can only wonder, right?
One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back, handled. Now, here's the thing. Some of these tweets in question were from some small accounts. You can bring this up here. Some of these accounts that were banned, were relatively small accounts, and they included what they claimed were sensitive pictures of Hunter Biden. Here's something...
Yeah, sensitive pictures. They were revenge porn of Hunter Biden. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. You see the big account, you see James Woods, you see these big names, right? But I said, well, hold on a second. What are these small accounts that no one is talking about?
Yeah.
Two of the accounts that were targeted, they just seem to be anti-Chinese propaganda accounts that were banned.
And that nobody would really even know.
Or suspended.
Because you look at the James Wood thing and go, oh,
right.
Okay, I'm going to focus on that.
Dude, I have no idea what he's even talking about. Like, the posts that he listed specifically were all just revenge of Hunter Biden. I don't know anything about, like, Chinese tweets, Chinese propaganda, whatever.
But who's this other person?
It's always the in-betweens. Yeah. It's the little stories sometimes that give you... And this is why I talk about when we do what we do. We're incredibly grateful that you have all joined and supported us with Mug Club. I don't know that it's possible for people coming up today with the way big tech censors to create what we've created. I don't know if there's a way...
Oh, give me a break. Seriously, he is absolutely convinced that he is, like, persecuted terribly.
From the draft and behind us, that's a big part of what we're working on in the new year, to try and create an ecosystem where little guys actually have an opportunity like we did have in 2009 and 2010, 2012, before the algorithms changed it. Yeah. It's what you don't see. It's not the big celebrities. It's the people who don't have that kind of pull. How are they treated? And they were removed, and stories were censored repeatedly, and that happens in the dead of night.
Stories were not censored like that. The Biden campaign was just getting Hunter revenge removed from Twitter. Simple as that. Now, regarding the Hunter Biden laptop story, people were not having their accounts removed for discussing that at all. The New York Post, at the time, the New York Post wrote up a story about Hunter Biden's laptop and made a bunch of claims about it and had posts of emails between Hunter Biden and somebody else, but they were screenshots of the emails. They weren't original emails with preserved metadata or anything like that. So right off the bat, it's all sketchy and questionable. Twitter removed a link to the Hunter Biden laptop story because it used hacked materials and it violated their hacked materials like policy or whatever. But the very next day, they reestablished the story. And they didn't censor anybody discussing it. People were perfectly free to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop to their heart's content all over Twitter. So I don't know what kind of, like, persecution land this guy lives in, but this is completely made up, like all of it.
And that is long-term. So much more dangerous because you're just kind of trimming this and you're etching that out, and then you end up framing a narrative and no one knows. It's the you can't really prove or disprove a negative. Because he never knew that story existed, and there's no way to find that story.
Okay, well, if what you're saying is true, then prove it to me. If this isn't a made-up situation, then show me an example of this actually taking place. A real example of this happening.
That's what's so dangerous with all of this. I think a lot of people have maybe missed with the Twitter files. Something else that we obviously know, they were suppressing the laptop story, of course, on the grounds of it being hacked material. Well, they knew.
That's right. And then the very next day, they reversed their position on that. And it was only... No, they weren't... Okay, let me rephrase. They were not suppressing the laptop story. They removed the tweet of the story that linked to the New York Post thing. They didn't suppress the story. People were free to talk about it as much as they wanted. But, again, they've got to be persecuted, right? It's constant. They constantly want to feel persecuted, seemingly.
Knew it was bullcrap.
Yeah. I don't understand.
They knew it was bullcrap back then, to be clear.
Immediately
so it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a lie. It was a lie with which Twitter was complicit.
No to literally all of this. Like, everything that he said here is incorrect.
They claimed they thought it was hacked. And I thought, well, did they not just watch our show?
It was hacked. Even if the policy was hacked or stolen materials. The data on the laptop was stolen from Hunter Biden. People did not have a right to that. They may have had a right to the laptop, assuming the story is true. Completely ridiculous story. I don't even believe that the laptop is real. But assuming that the laptop is real, the laptop was supposedly left at a repair shop in like Maryland or Delaware or something like that. After 90 days, the laptop repairman was allowed to keep the laptop when nobody came back to pay for it, basically. The laptop now belongs to the repairman. The data on it does not. That was stolen. So the policy most definitely does still apply to this laptop data. It was hacked or stolen materials. And either way, they reversed it anyways the very next day.
Where Giuliani brought the laptop on air. No, we know, according to, and I want to go to you in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's a quote. Former VP of Global Communications, Brandon Borman, wrote in an email, "Can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? As part of our approach to addressing potentially hacked material, we are limiting visibility of related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing." Deputy General.
Right. This is evidence that people inside Twitter were struggling with these decisions and trying to be as fair as possible. That's what we're looking at right now. People trying to be fair. And he's using it as some gotcha against the rest of Twitter because they ended up removing a single link to a single story, but allowed people to talk about it to their heart's content anyways. Damned if you do, damned if you don't in this situation. Like every single decision that was made by Twitter, no matter what that decision was, Steven Crowder used it as evidence of some big plot against him. It's like when you're dealing with a conspiracy theorist. Evidence that the conspiracy theory is false is evidence that it's real because it means somebody planted it there to try to throw you off the trail. No evidence at all means they're really good at hiding it. Evidence in favor of the conspiracy theory means the conspiracy theory is real. Everything that you see adds to your belief that the conspiracy is real. Everything. And that's what we're seeing with this guy right now.
General Counsel Jim Baker replied, "I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked," meaning the Hunter Biden laptop story. "At this stage, however, it is reasonable for us to assume that they may have been and that caution is maybe warranted. There are some facts that indicate that the materials may have been hacked, while there are others indicating that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information." Here's the thing. They were saying maybe.
Why did they put the people's pictures up? It is really... he knows that his audience is full of extremists. He knows that. He has groomed them to be extremists. I just don't understand why he's willing to put people's lives in danger, literally, by putting their face all over the internet and turning them into a bad guy like that. It's fucking disgusting.
Maybe not. That.
You know, that should be illegal, honestly, in my opinion. It should be illegal to, like, dox people like this.
While there are others indicating that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information. Here's the thing. They were saying maybe, maybe not. That information was available. When you look back through history, it's not did people do what they could do with the information that they had at that time. It's what other information was available at that time. And were there contrarians? Were there opposing viewpoints saying, hey, there is information available at this time which was discounted? For example, Anthony Fauci with AIDS, saying that you could catch it because it was airborne, that a kid could catch it from his parents through a cereal box at their house. When other people were saying, no, it's primarily gay sex in the bathhouses that you attend.
Okay, this is interesting what he's saying here right now. Basically, what Steven Crowder is saying is there were people who were correct about some things previously in history, when the officials were saying we have no reason to believe that, and Steven Crowder is using that as a basis to, like, attack these people or whatever. Yeah, I guess that's true. Just like alien conspiracy theorists have been talking about aliens existing for 50, 75, 100 years, right? But the guy who claimed that aliens were real 75 years ago was not justified in believing that they were. He was crazy then, and he's crazy now. There is no evidence to assume that aliens are real and that they're out there trying to, like, send us messages or whatever other thing. Just because you were right by happenstance does not mean you were justified in your assumption that, you know, aliens are real or whatever other thing it is. Conspiracy theorists are wrong, because they don't have the evidence to believe the things that they purport, not because the thing isn't true.
Same thing with COVID, right? This came from a wet market. People say, well, they did the best with the information they had at that time. No. Were there other people at that time saying, no, that doesn't seem to be the case?
He's correct. There were other people saying that at that time. They were not justified in saying that because they had no evidence to make that claim. It was completely out of the blue. It was totally made up when they said that shit about it coming from, a lab or whatever other thing. In fact, there's still no reason to think that it came from a lab. But for some reason, these people are like feeling vindicated, like they were right all along. No, you weren't right in the beginning. Whether you were correct or not, you were wrong to assume it in the beginning. And you're still not right. It was not proven. These people are just completely full of it and obsessed with themselves and convinced that they're like the most intelligent people alive, that they have access to secret information that nobody else has access to. Completely full of shit. There's no reason to think that it was leaked from a lab. There's no reason to think that aliens are visiting Earth. There's no reason to believe that Joe Biden secretly controlled Twitter or whatever other nonsense they have to spread. It is all made up.
They said, hey, 2 million people are going to die within the next 4 months, according to the Imperial College of London. This is all the information we had at this time. No. Were there other people at that time who were doctors, who were scientists saying that is incorrect? At this point in time, they said...
Wait, who were doctors or scientists? No, not really. All the doctors and or scientists that I heard were all basically saying the exact same thing. Why is he mixing doctors and scientists into this all of a sudden, like he cares about their opinion? I didn't hear anything from doctors or scientists saying that anything different than what the CDC was saying or whatever. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.